Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And today, two artists reach into the pile of media that we call
Art, books, comics, TV shows, movies, anything that moves you, and we try to find what's worth taking with you out of that.
Yeah, and today we're talking about something really special, actually. Me and Deshaun went to the Inconvenience Tour, the Clerks
Just the Convenience Tour.
The convenience. Sorry, I was slipping that in. And that's a Freudian slip right there because that from the movie. Clerks III, guys, with the Convenience Tour. It's something where Kevin Smith is touring around the movie to different, comedy venues and showing it, where he introduces it with usually a special guest. This time it was
Brian O'Halloran, who plays Dante,
which was really awesome. And then you show the movie, and then there's a Q&A afterward. But it was a little bit more but you kind of all knew that was gonna happen.
If you're familiar with Kevin Smith when he does like panels and like live shows and stuff like that, you'll know that's exactly how it goes. He will just go.
It was so funny because he called it right at the beginning. He was like, there should only be like 4 of you lined up because I'm not getting past 4. And then there was only 4 people that asked questions. And you're like, yeah. And they barely asked questions. He just kind of took what little they were saying and ran with it, which I loved, for almost 3 hours. So we won't talk about the show that much because, that's the fun of going to these things. We don't talk about, but it was a really cool experience to see Kevin Smith really up close. We were really close to the stage, so that was really fun. It wasn't too bad for the movie though. I don't think we were too close. We weren't craning our necks or anything.
Yeah, we were a little off to the side, but it wasn't, and we've been through much worse.
Yes, exactly.
We had worse when we first saw Gravity. Remember, we got to see Gravity before everyone else, and we were just...
We were like, wow, it's one shot the whole time.
It's like, wow, this is great.
I did actually rewatch that recently.
I can't wait to tell people about it.
I did rewatch that recently, and George Clooney does a good job. It's like Sandra Bullock carries that shit, but like George Clooney is just like himself, and it's so like, yep, there it is. But or whatever he puts out as his persona is on screen there. And I think that, sorry, I'm not going to talk about Gravity, but I was just, you were reminding me of me seeing it recently where I was like, I haven't seen this in forever. This is wild. But Clerks 3. So the first off, the 3-hour talk was really great. It was really inspirational. It was actually a lot of fun. One of the highlights was he went through all the crafty of each movie he's done. Well, almost every movie. He kind of stopped before Cop Out. That's where we ran out of time for the night. Yeah. But it was like one of those things that it was so funny to hear these actually Frank stories about behind the scenes stuff, and I love that. But then it was full of inspirational stuff and him kind of dissecting the movie for us a little bit, and I really enjoyed that a lot. I think it added a lot too, but I want to talk about how I felt before Kevin Smith talked about it afterward. But also I think our experience, my experience, because this is the first time I've seen it. Deshaun, this is the second time you've seen it?
The
third time you've seen it.
Because I saw it in theaters with the limited run that Fathom Events did. And then when my brother came home to spend some time with us for the weekend, it was already out on digital at this point. So we had watched it. And then the Convenience Tour finally came up because it had been going around the country for a while. And Kevin Smith explained why, but for some reason there was no fucking Boston date. And we're like, what the fuck, dude? Come on. Where is it? Yeah, but
I love that he explained it, that it was literally the fan expo being like, hey, don't announce another Boston date so we lose ticket sales. Please don't do that. And so he literally had to wait till after fan expo happened to announce this one. And you're like, oh, okay. You're like, that's wild.
But by extension, we also got one of the last dates. So we were the semifinal show. And by then it's already out on digital and it's already out on Blu-ray as of yesterday.
Yeah. So I'm kind of late to the party by seeing it for the first time with this giant crowd at the Wilbur. I think that definitely flavors it. I mean, if you've ever been to a midnight premiere, you know that absolutely flavors how you viewing the movie, you know, like because it's all these fans together losing their goddamn minds about something that they love. And even more so here, because it's not like a midnight premiere. It's literally people being like, I love this so much. It's out everywhere else, but I still want to support it. So people just losing it from the get-go. Lionsgate logo came up and people were just fucking losing it, which, like, first off, yes, because Lionsgate picking up this is pretty fantastic, you know, like, I mean, you know, Kevin Smith's a big name, but, like, you know, Lionsgate does not have to do that shit.
It's also solely based on the fact that Jay and Silent Bob Reboot did so well on home media that he even got funding for Clerks 3 from them in the first place.
Yeah, right? And it's one of those things that I think Clerks 3 was something that we've heard about forever. I think Kevin Smith, if you're a Kevin Smith fan, you've heard about him working on Clerks 3 forever. Literally 10 years of him being like, okay, I have this idea for Clerks 3. This is what I want to do. And then, you know, like, when he was actually being like, I'm moving forward with it, the pandemic fucking just, it did to all
many
of us.
Different incarnations of it. One of them eventually ended up just becoming Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, which is funny because history repeats itself.
Yeah.
Because the original version of Clerks 2, eventually, before we got the Clerks 2 that we know today, also just eventually just became Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
And the Clerks 3 here of the plot of that Randall making a movie was the plot of the animated Clerks movie that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, that never happened. Yeah, Clerks Sellout.
Yeah, Sellout, which is, I mean, it's funny that we eventually got an animated movie, you know, and it was Jay and Silent Bob, you know, but, like, you know, you're just like, all right. Like, so I want to say right off the bat that, like, I love Kevin Smith. You're already kind of hearing it, but, like,
yeah, if you haven't listened to it, listen to our View Askewniverse episode from way back. It was kind of a precursor to our Works of, like, sub-series.
Yeah, it'll probably be easier for you guys to find it on your podcast any podcast platform. Just kind of scroll really far back.
Yeah. And if you just need like a visual, like, yeah, we like Kevin Smith in this house.
We like Kevin Smith in this house. But I did kind of go into Clerks 3. Other than, like, Deshaun saying it was good, because I was like, don't tell me anything, and he was just like, other than, is it good? And he said, yeah, it's good.
I basically said, like, it's good, I cried, and you were like, well, yeah, that's a review.
Yeah, that's a review. It's true. That is a review. Not often the tears come from Deshaun Vasquez's eyelids. So it's well earned when it does. And it did get me to cry this time. But before that, I went into this movie. I love the Jay and Silent Bob movies. I was just saying the animated one, and then what was the last one?
Reboot.
It's Reboot.
I always want to call it Get Old.
Yeah,
it's a fitting title, but that's the podcast, not the name of the movie.
Which is great. Another great podcast. But that, and I mean, if you're listening to podcasts, you're all about it. But I kind of went into Clerks 3, with kind of low expectations for something that would really, you know,
resonate.
Yeah, resonate, you know, like something that would work. But Kevin Smith had been saying for years he wouldn't even do Clerks 3 if he didn't think he had something to say. So I probably should have known from that was like, if we were even doing Clerks 3, there had to be something big to be said. And I feel like there is a lot to be said here.
Like the two ones you can get away with to be like, I just want to make another one, let's just have fun, are the Jay and Silent Bob movies, and if you wanted to make another Mallrats. Like those are the ones where you can just be silly and not think about it too hard. But if you want to do a Clerks
which
movie,
I love,
it kind of has to have some bite. If he ever wanted to do a Dogma sequel, that would have to have a little bite.
Right? Exactly. And I mean, oh my god, a Dogma sequel. You're like, oh lord. You know, like you're like that'd be hard to do.
Yeah, he had said he had like toyed with an idea for a little bit, but it was just like, dude, was already like, people were already on my ass for making the first one, and that was when I was single. Now I have a
Yeah.
wife and kid, and I'm scared.
Yeah, fair. I want to say that like it did make me cry. It's like without spoiling too much right off. When we will go into spoilers, but like right off the get go, this is a movie that has something to say. It's fun. It's a great. It's a great watch. It's really one of those things that he says it in the Q&A later, but like you felt it during the movie, is that you got a comedy for like an hour and a half, and then the last half an hour is like whap with a real drama, and it's like, and it really brings the house down, sort of, you know. Like it's kind of like it does work. It feels genuine, and that's what I feel is very important here, is that with Clerks and Clerks 2 and now Clerks 3, it had to have this actual genuine feel. Like it had to come from the heart, you know. It had to be real. It can't be a made up situation, you know. Like, you know, like that's the thing, is it's like it would be hard to do for Clerks 3, is that we were just, it's like, first one is a day-to-day life of clerks, you know, like that, what happens in one day of working as a clerk. And Clerks 2 is our characters kind of grown up and working somewhere else, sort of. And then like and it's also a lot of like life revelations, and he gets into a lot about relationships in that, you know. Like it's like really, you know, like it's an interesting, it's like such an interesting watch, and it's like it's one of those things that feels genuine. And Clerks 3 here, of course, the plot is about Randall having a heart attack and wanting to make a movie, which is, of course, it's funny because like you have Kevin Smith before the heart attack, and of course he was putting out a ridiculous amount of work. Even to make one of these movies is a ridiculous amount of work, guys. But like, you know, like it's like he was putting out a lot, and then the heart attack happens, and he comes and he's just, you know, like he's doing his best work, like literally, you know, like really working, and like and doing some of his best stuff. And I think I think he wouldn't disagree either, you know. Like he's like, it's one of those things that like, there's something real there of like the scare of almost dying, you know, like really like changed his life. And it's like, and he also uses them making a movie to comment on how he made his movie, you know, like, and how, you know, like it is easier than you think it is, at the same time as being just a great thing to do with your friends, you know, like, and then you're doing it with friends that you will have till the end of your life, you know. Like it's really a movie about best friends. I know that sounds cheesy as shit, but like it's really a movie about best friends, and in a not like cheesy way, in like a real, like, holy shit, I've been with you your whole life. I've literally been with you longer than like most anything, you know, like and I think that's kind of interesting, you know. Like it's a huge comment on like what happens when you've been together forever. You know, like, and you've been doing the same thing every day with each other, you know, like, and then you gotta something has to change at some point, you know. And I think that's it's like it's about best friends, and it's about growing up in place, you know, like you know, like even if Jersey's about growing up in place, you know, like that was it. That was
also the idea of like it never being too late to reinvent yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like there's no age limit. There's no time to not do what you need to do or do your dream, you know. Like I think it's interesting right off the bat that kind of the whole Clerks movies, Daryl has been
Dante.
Dante, sorry. Dante, sorry, I did the fucking joke for the movie. And Dante is kind of the Kevin Smith stand-in. You know, you of course have Silent Bob, but like it's like the real like Kevin Smith stand-in has been Dante. And then kind of in this one, it's kind of flipped a little bit, you know, like it's one of those, it's one of those things that he's like switched it and to being Randall being the one who's kind of his stand-in here, but not entirely, because really Randall would be the one who finally kind of breaks after all this time of just like loving movies and doing the same thing. And he you know, he owns half of the Quickie Mart. Like, you know, it's not what he's always been talking about, these sci-fi worlds, these big ideas, you know, like it's one of those things that Randall does make sense to be the guy who's like, oh shit, I need to make a movie instead of Dante.
Even before Kevin Smith had his heart attack, he had said with like the early versions of the script that like Randall was like put at the forefront, which makes sense since the first two movies were primarily Dante's story.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it's of course that you don't have Randall without Dante, you know, like, and then that's kind of the sad beat at the end is what happens when you don't have Dante. But really, do you ever lose people? Really, you know, like is what, you know, the trying to say at the end. We said no spoilers, but too bad. We're talking. We're talking this movie. It's been out. Sorry, guys. I kind of want to start right from the beginning. For why I always say I know a great movie right from the fucking get go. And when a movie opens with MCR, I know it's a great fucking movie. It opens with Black Parade as they open up the Quick Mart, and like Quick Stop. Sorry, what the fuck is wrong with me right now? I can't fucking say any. Sorry about that to everyone. I am dumb. But I love that it started with Black Parade, and in such a great way, in such a way that only Kevin Smith could have edited. You know, like that's the best part about like Clerks, you know, and his movies most of the time is he's editing, and I think this one shows, you know, like it, especially with the opening, you're like okay, you know, like he's doing it to Black Parade and it's really working, you know, and it's like it doesn't feel like too forced, you know, it just feels like this is what Jersey is, baby. Like, I definitely think this is one of the Jersiest movies ever. Not only because most of the artists in the soundtrack are from Jersey, but also just because it's like Clerks is of course the most Jersey movie ever, but this comes very close, you know, like very close.
Yeah. Especially since like a lot of his more recent movies haven't really stood there. Because like even Reboot like starts there, but just like Strikes Back, it's another like trip to Hollywood.
Yeah, and Yoga Hosers is you know, like not even there. It's in Canada, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like those are big departures for him. So it's like it's cool to come back to Jersey, you know, and it feel like a really freaking Jersey movie. So, I mean, I love that opening. What did you? I know you're not the biggest MCR fan. Did you think the same thing?
I mean, I did like it. I mean, Welcome to the Black Parade is one of the few MCR songs that I actually like have on me. I want to clarify visually because I'm going to say on my Walkman, and I'm not talking about a tape player. I'm talking about this sucker.
This man's got a Zune. No, I'm just kidding.
This is a Sony Walkman, Frank, from 2017. It is not that old.
It's kind of old. It's kind of old now, Deshaun.
It has Bluetooth. It also has a built-in DAC. For some reason, I'm never going to use it, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I grew up an MCR kid. I was a huge MCR fan. I grew up and my wife's a big MCR fan, so that was like a big thing for us. we saw them before they broke up, and I really want to see them now that they're back together.
Way
But
more
I
expensive.
really, yeah, a little bit more expensive than just the fucking House of Blues. Now it's the TD Garden. You're like, ooh. You're like, well, no, duh, though. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, well, no fucking duh.
That's how I feel
But
about Wolf Alice, because they're starting to get
yeah,
bigger. I'm just like, oh yeah, they
huge.
were like $35 at Big Night Live, and it was great. It's like they're starting to get more and more popular now, though.
Yeah, when I set up for them, it was just another act at Boston Calling. So it's just like one of those things that you're like, oh, all right. But great band. I want to call out that the cinematography was great in this one. They did break away from using their normal DP for most of like Kevin Smith usually uses the same DP, and he finally changed it up for this one specifically.
Sort of. He had Dave Klein for Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy.
Yep.
Then Miramax basically was just like, you can't have him anymore. You got to use a real DP. So for like Dogma and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and Jersey Girl and like pretty much all the way up until Clerks 2, didn't have Dave Klein. Then we got Dave Klein back for Clerks 2 and Zach and Miri, and then Dave Klein went off again.
And now this is Loren Koronoff. And he actually has worked with Kevin Smith for a long time. He was the cinematographer on the Flying Car short. Which
nice.
is
that
wild.
Is a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. That's like the OG. But like his recent things have been TV in like Stargirl and being the cinematographer, 16 episodes of Madam Secretary and a bunch of other little independent movies and stuff like that, which is great. Kevin Smith likes to brag that this is Clerks is the like one of the biggest independent trilogies of all time, because it's like he really did independently fund all of them. So it's just like that. I think that's always super impressive. But I think it's funny that that they changed up the cinematographer here, and I think it really does work. I think this is actually a really beautiful looking movie. The whole time. Not that there was anything wrong with Clerks 2 or 1. I fucking love the cinematography.
I really love Clerks 2's like oversaturation on purpose. Like when I think of Clerks 2, I think of like yellow, but I think it just works for like the fast food setting and how fucking draining this whole day is. But it's also very mid 2000s looking.
Yes, very much so. I think that, but I do want to say that, like, I think that, well, when I think of Clerks 2, I think of yellow and purple. And I think that the Clerks 3 logo here is like really nice because they like work in the purple. It just looks really nice. It's like a different shade. It's more pastel-y than the original Clerks logo.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, pastel.
And I fucking love it. I think it looks great. It's one of those things when I see it, I'm like, that looks great. Sorry, that's a little tangent. That doesn't have anything to do with the movie, but graphic design
logos
wise,
are nice. Like
but logos are nice. But I do want to call out the cinematography here because I think that it was kind of a risk to bring in a new a different DP for this one, not a new because he's been working forever, but like a different one, and I think it really paid off. I think this one feels at times when it wants to feel reminiscent of Clerks 1, it's able to do so, and then when it wants to be new and Hollywood, it is. Sorry.
That's definitely a good segue to just talk about how well the like callbacks and like recreating shots and moments from the making of the first movie are done.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Even beyond just the visual, I'm like, okay, that they pretty much got the shot right, which is funny. Kevin Smith literally said he just had Clerks 1 on HBO Max on his phone to be like, move a little bit. There we go. We got it.
And it's one of those things that it's hard to emulate your own style, in a way.
Years after the fact.
Years after the fact. It's hard to do, and I think they pull it off here, and it really works out.
There's also so much like little if you know, behind the scenes stuff. Like if you know anything about like the making of the original Clerks, there's so much stuff that they reincorporate as jokes.
Yes.
Like the moment where Jay is too shy to like dance in front of everyone, so he makes everyone go inside and just put the camera on. That was the thing that Jason Mewes made everyone do because he was too shy to dance.
And I that's what I think is great about this movie too, is it's a little it's almost like fan servicey in a way where it's like it gives these fans these moments if you know them, you know, like it's still a funny moment, but like if you know it as an actual real thing that happened, it's almost even funnier, you know.
It works a little better than say like the 2 Canada movies he made, Tuscan Hosers. That's very much just like if you listen to Smodcast shit, then you're gonna have a blast. But if you're not in the know, it's just gonna be kind of weird.
It is gonna be kind of weird. I want to say that I do love seeing Jay and Silent Bob like succeed, because like in a lot of the other movies they're just like falling through life, you know, like, and it's just like kind of them trying to get into the more money they deserve. So it's like it's really funny that to see them like succeed in having their own dispensary and like just kind of chilling and doing whatever they want.
Yeah,
just like
they crunchy rolled themselves. They they were criminals until they went legit.
Exactly, and now they can just kind of. I love them trying to be sneaky at the beginning, and they were like, "That's how we did in the '90s, son." Like, I love it. It's a callback to a line, but it's also like a comment on them not needing to do that anymore. You know, like them just have
just the idea of like 2 stoner main characters isn't like the like transgressive rebellious thing anymore,
right? It's just legal. You know, you're just like, oh. But I love that about this movie is they kind of give them you know, success, you know, and I love that shit, you know. Like it's more fan servicey things, you know, like
especially since I was wondering what they were going to do with RST video. Just like, okay, there's no way RST video is still a thing anymore, so like what happened? And we see that it was the cock smoker in Reboot, which they got arrested for. And now it's a dispenser. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I love that it's RST THC now.
Yeah, I love that they didn't realize that that's one of the funniest scenes with them is them being like, can we use your video store? They were like, they're like, what fee? Like, and they look around and it's all like
fucking VHS tapes behind them.
They like got the weed and the VHS tapes, and they still are like, what? Like, huh? And I thought that was super funny. I thought that was great. I do think this movie is very funny throughout. I think that there's lots of bits that really work, and really, it's not just fans, you know, like it's not just, and I don't think it's not just the fans next to us losing their mind at every joke either, you know. I think that a lot of it's earned and works really well.
Yeah, it's funny. It's definitely more emotional than funny, mostly because of like the final act.
Yes,
but it's genuinely I wouldn't say I laugh as hard as like the first 2 films, especially the second. Like Clerks 1 is my favorite, but Clerks 2 is the one I quote the most amongst friends.
It is it's like, well, I don't know. I kind of I do quote Clerks 1 more, like, you know, 37 dicks is very easy to say, you know, like 37. Whenever anybody says 37, I'm like 37 dicks
in a row.
In a row. Like I fuck that's the one I quote the most. But I do think Clerks 2 is super funny, and I think that that's kind of what's hard to compete here, is that like it is a funny movie, but how do you compete with those two? Exactly. It's so hard. Especially it's like
since how much the landscape has changed.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that a lot of the jokes work here. I especially think the butt thief joke, like as a, you know, growing up Catholic, the butt thief joke fucking made me lose it all. That I'm gonna fight. I was like, oh my god, he's ruined that story forever. Like I fucking love that. You know, like it's just now butt thief. That's the only thing I can think of.
The only thing that like rides the line, and this is having seen it 3 times, that like almost doesn't work, but it just manages to keep it to itself together, is the whole Elias running gag.
Yeah, of him like losing his faith and shit like that, and
Yeah.
then like, yeah, I do. It's
It
one of
does
those. It's goofy. It's one of those things
it
that
does
feels
ring a
like,
little bit like we wanted to bring Elias back because everyone loved Elias in Clerks
yeah.
2, but we weren't sure how to incorporate him. We had to give him something to do.
And it's one of those things that it's super funny, and it's silly, but it's also very like Jay and Silent Bob, and they like call it out at the beginning, but like it is very Jay and Silent Bob, these two guys who are just kind of off on their own side quest as the rest of the fucking movie's going on, you know, like, and you just keep hearing about them spiraling constantly, you know, like, and you're just like, yep, okay. Like,
Yeah,
it's just like,
especially
yeah.
since Jay and Silent Bob themselves are much more muted, and they're older. They're not
Yeah,
as
they're older.
zany. Like, I think it perfectly illustrates it with that moment where it's like, shut the fuck up, it's nighttime.
I did love that though. I fucking Jay Muse had me dying. I mean, I love Jason Mewes, but like he fucking had me dying in this movie with his dancing and the fucking.
He's a zany guy. Met him
Shut
twice.
the fuck up! It's night outside.
He's very nice.
Oh god, it's so funny. So I mean, we do have to kind of talk about. Yeah, we already talking about things that didn't work. I will say a lot. You were just saying, and then we were kind of saying it after the movie, is that Rosario Dawson, I feel like, is such a great add to this movie. Of course, we all love seeing Rosario Dawson. I think it's a great emotional punch the whole movie, you know, like it's able to like really deliver Dante's actual sadness.
They were clever about the way they marketed the film the entire time. Whenever you would see like promotional photos, like Becky would be there.
Yeah.
You would see her in the trailers. It was clear that she wasn't going to have as big a role in this as Clerks 2, but then starting Clerks 3 and getting like the memoriam sheet at the register that she had died in 2006, which was when Clerks 2 came out. That was the immediate like, what?
Yeah, right. What? And I think it I think it really works, and it's one of those things that feels so real and sad and honest, you know.
I knew they were gonna do something sad just because I would see stuff like on the internet when I would do the internet. About like, Rosario Dawson talks about her character in Clerks 3 and like how emotional it was and like how a lot of people go through this. I'm like, what the fuck happened?
But yeah, you're like, wait a minute.
Died. I think, the one thing that they're not advertising is the fact that Becky was pregnant at the end of Clerks 2.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything about Dante and Becky's kid. So maybe she had a miscarriage or something, and that's what the subplot is. But it turns out, yes, but she also died. So you get both.
Yes, but no. And you're like, oh, like that is. There's several like gut punches in this movie, and I think they work so well and feel so I keep saying genuine because it's actually true, you know, like this is stuff that happens, and it feels so like the universe just beat you the fuck up, you know, like just decided no, you know, like, and but I think that Kevin Smith has like a lesson at the end of the day for these whole movies is that you know, like you get to live, you know, like you did not die in the car crash, you know, it's like Dante, you get to live more days, and that's the only gift we're all given is this life. So you need to freaking actually use it and do what you want to do instead of just being like, hey, it's another day. He said it in the Q, and he said it even in the Q&A. He said, the guy was like, how do I make time to make my movies? You know, like, how do I make time? And they're like, you just do, because there is no other time. So you just do. You make time. And I thought that was like super poignant when he said that. I was like, oh, geez. But that's not even in the movie. Sorry about that.
So it works. I am still, again, having seen it 3 times. I was already, even coming out of it the first time, I'm like, I I would have probably done the Ghost Becky thing a little differently. It's
Yeah.
just it's because it's in a Clerks movie. It's just weird to me in a Clerks movie to have like Dante talking to a ghost.
What that's the thing. Is it weird? Dante should be talking to a ghost. It's Dante's Inferno. Like he should be talking to a ghost the whole time. But isn't Randall kind of Virgil? You know, like I wanted to bring that up too. Is that Clerks is definitely kind of a huge allegory for to Dante's Inferno in a weird way, you know, like they keep just going down these layers of weird, you know, like, and it's kind of just Randall's kind of his weird Virgil ghost, you know, just kind of like pestering about bullshit, you know, like asking. It's like that's the weird thing about Dante's Inferno. There's like times when Virgil's like, yeah, but what about these popes? And like Dante, you know, they'll just talk about fucking popes back then, but it's like political commentary of the time. But like now it's like they're just talking about Star Wars. So it's like, but I love that allegory there. And it's kind of this, like, they're like stuck in this hell, you know, like,
yeah.
And definitely so we already said spoilers, but Dante dying at the end of this is a huge callback to Clerks 1 ending originally with Dante being shot and left for dead at the end there. But everyone decided to said in test screenings to change the ending. Everyone was like,
which I agree with, but I agree with, but I also do get why he killed him off originally, because if you think about it, everything happens to him on this fucking day that could happen at a convenience store, except someone sticking him up and trying to rob the store.
Yeah, and then it finally does. I do. I kind of agree with that, because also
plus
there's like a
the
huge
running gag of I'm not even supposed to be here today into something tragic, because it's just like, oh, you weren't even on call today. You shouldn't even have been here. You wouldn't have died.
Yeah, and it shows a real statistic, because one of the most dangerous occupations in the United States is being a corner store like clerk. It's like literally one of the most dangerous occupations. More of them die than cops. It's wild. It's like a crazy number. It's like, it's one of those things that like people get, you know, assaulted and beat up and attacked like as store clerks all the time, and it's kind of this like crazy number we don't talk about often, and it's about the occupational deaths as a store clerk, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, so that's the reason why I always felt like it was kind of like super realistic of them trying to kill him off there.
As
but
far as
I
like
understand
the way it's implemented here, it's like just bordering on like a little cheesy, and this is just, and you always have to ride a line when it comes to like, this is what I would have done. I'm better. It's more just like, word given to me. I think it would have been more impactful if we had only seen Becky in like that brief moment when he's at the hospital and they're wheeling her in. He's like seeing a flashback of the last time he was in this hospital. Yeah. And if we just saved her until the final moment at the movie theater, I think it would have been much more impactful to be like, oh, there she is.
I understand that. I also think one of the more cheesier moments, but it still made me cry, was Randall showing him the movie before he dies at the end. You know, I feel like that was a little like, I was just like, like that doesn't exactly make sense. Like, it was the only part of the movie that I was like, that doesn't make sense, but I'll let it, you know, we'll let it go. Like I
also think they sort of get away with it with Randall prefacing it as like, this is how I see you.
I see you. And so it's like Randall's eyes.
And also Dante's dying and he's on a bunch of meds. Yeah. So it would make sense that he would just equate to like what actually happened is what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and they said it earlier. When I watch this movie, I see my life, you know, like your life is my life, you know, like when you're talking about your life, it's my life. And it's like one of those things that like, that's why that moment works. That's why, is because like they kind of preface it and then they make it work. And it's like, and it's so sentimental, and it's like a callback to the original movie, so it's like this great capping of this trilogy. I do think it works. It's just one of those moments that I was like, I kept thinking about being like, that almost doesn't make any sense. But I'm like, but it did make me cry, so I don't care, you know, like, exactly. Yeah. Like, you're just like, did it bring tears to your eyes? You know, like it's like, that's one of the I know it sounds stupid, but that's one of the great things about art in general is that it makes you feel things. And one of the two greatest feelings as an artist is as people who work on movies, work on videos, work on stuff is I want making somebody laugh, making somebody scared, and making somebody cry is like three of the greatest joys in the fucking world, like.
And also ties into sort of like the Robert McKee philosophy of just like, you can have as many flaws as you want. Like, you can have inconsistencies, you can have weird characters, but if you wow them in the end, then you have something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. And it really, I feel like it really does work out in the end.
And it often supersedes their entire memory about what was leading up to that point. I find that, I even find that with TV. I've been going through Doctor Who again.
Yeah.
With a friend who had like never seen it, and one of the episodes that comes up for another friend is like one of their favorites is Vincent and the Doctor, and I'm just like, nice. Vincent and the Doctor is an okay episode with an amazing ending.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's
yeah.
It's like, oh, it's my favorite. I'm like, I mean, I love the ending. The episode itself is fine.
It's true. It's why a lot of action movies, people will be like, wow, I really love that. And I'm like, did you love the last half an hour or did you love the movie? Like, you're just like, did the last half an hour really fucking send you off?
I mean, isn't that how Mission Impossible has basically built its entire house?
Yes.
Just like, yo, but that stunt though. I'm like, yeah, those stunts are impressive, but what about everything else surrounding? What about everything else in this sandwich?
You're just like, yeah, Tom Cruise really does the stunts, but do I care what he's doing on screen? No, I do not. No, never have. I'm sorry, I'm not a big Mission Impossible guy. I've never.
Neither am I. You and I
every time I've watched them, I've just been like, cool. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, like, it's just like, I
like,
guess.
The first one's fine. It's not Brian De Palma's best. I kind of like 2 just because it's just so fucking ridiculous. It's just like, you get John Woo to direct anything. It's just like,
and you're like,
calm down. No. We're going to jump off motorcycles at the same time and bump into each other. There's going to be doves everywhere.
I know, I love John Woo so much. I think that it's just not my favorite franchise, and it's like one of those things that they just keep happening, and you're like, when does it end? When does it stop? Like, you're just like, I don't know when this actually stops.
I can think of a way it could stop, but it's cynical and sad.
Don't you say it. Don't you?
You know what I don't need
yeah.
You already know.
No, don't you say it. Don't bring that out in the world. I'm like, as much as people don't like Tom Cruise, don't bring that out in the world. It's like, I know he's a weirdo. I know he's a fucking weirdo, but we don't have to say that.
But there's just so much, and Kevin Smith had brought this up in the Q&A afterwards of how, like, Clerks 1 came from an actual experience. Clerks 2 is more just taking what Clerks 1 did and sort of wondering what would happen next from that point, as opposed to pulling from somewhere personal. So pulling from his heart attack for Clerks 3 really makes it stand out as another, like, personal journey. It's also a good cap, because you're already kind of pushing your luck to make a good Clerk sequel. It's not really a movie that's kind of built to have a sequel, and comedy sequels are already hard.
And one thing that's a weird genre of film that I do genuinely like, movies about making movies. There's a lot of movies about that. I think most of them are cheesy. I think this one succeeds. I think this one feels genuine. I feel, as somebody who's made short films, like went to film school, as, like works in video production. So it's like, I've done documentary shorts. I'm doing, doing stuff. It's like, as somebody who does that, that's how shoots feel. Sometimes it's just you and your buddies fucking running around being like, here we go. This is what I wrote up. We're all believing in this weird thing that we've made up together. Like, that's the weird part about making movies. You have to sort of convince everyone around you about your weird dream. You're like, I want to make this thing. And everyone around you goes, yeah, I'll dedicate my fucking life to that. Like, and you're just like, you're like, what? Like, and that's that's the weird part about making the art of movies is that it is a collaborative art. It's not something you do by yourself.
And the pulling from like what you know and everyone else around you being like, did I say that? When the hell did that happen? Like that exchange was like, why do you make me say all this silly shit like snoochie boochies is something that actually happened when they were making Clerks? It's like, motherfucker, everything that's written here is stuff that you actually said. You don't have to act. You just have to be yourself, and it'll work.
Oh man, I thought
they
that
even have
funny.
great in jokes like that one scene where Randall's talking to Veronica, and for some reason he has like really heavy eye makeup and stuff.
Yeah,
it's a reference to Clerks 1 because they applied his makeup too heavily, and you can notice it if you like look really closely. So I'm glad they threw that back in as a joke.
Right, so good. I do love all the callbacks to Clerks 1. I feel like Clerks 2 was like treading forward, and this one's kind of like, closing it off. I do want to call out that one of my favorite parts of this movie, funniest bits, because like we're talking about like how serious this movie is, but one of the funniest bits is the doctor that takes care of Randall during his heart attack, played by
Amy Sedaris.
First off, I love Amy Sedaris. I think she's fucking hilarious, and this resurgence we're having of Amy Sedaris is amazing. I think it's one of those things where you're like, yes, thank you. I also think that it was super funny that Randall was just talking about Mando to her the whole time when she literally is in Mando. You're just like,
and
she's in the show.
No idea what he's talking about. It's like the same thing with the fucking fourth wall breaking reboot.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's like Bruce Wayne. You're Thomas Wayne, or Bruce Wayne's mom, whose name escapes me.
Whose name escapes me. I also will say the other funniest scene in the entire movie, and probably the reason most people will remember, like funny wise, is the celebrity audition. Is that they do like auditions at the local playhouse, and all of a sudden it's like Ben Affleck, Sarah Michelle Gellar, like Fred Armisen, Freddie Prinze Jr.
I love that Freddie Prinze Jr. just plays himself in that moment. Like he literally says, Freddie Prinze Jr.
I know. Everyone else is something else. Like, I'm Boston John from Ben Affleck, and like everyone else is saying there's somebty else.
But it definitely shows how much friends Kevin Smith has made over the years.
Right? You're just like, holy smokes. But I really loved that they had his Hollywood Babylon host
Ralph Garman
on there, because it's like one of those things that
you popped off when Ralph Garman came up on screen.
I know. I fucking love him because as somebody who likes doing accents, it's like I think Ralph Garman's fucking amazing. I'm like you are fucking
it did
great.
Make me miss Hollywood Babylon. I definitely don't listen to Hollywood Babylon like that anymore.
Yeah,
but,
no, me neither. And I need to.
Days we would fucking listen to it all the time.
Exactly, and it's like I think he's so funny, and I guess I got to go back to listening to Hollywood Babylon because I did lose it when he came on screen and they made him do the Al Pacino. I was like, no, they're not gonna make him do Al Pacino, and they were like, can you do an Al Pacino? Ooh, like I love them asking him to do it on screen, like because he says that several times in the podcast, like people just ask him sometimes, and he's just
like the fucking Bobby Moynihan, the fact that it's weird. I love Bobby that both versions of Willem are in this with no explanation, because the guy that Scott Mosier plays in Clerks, that's beautiful, man. Yeah, and the guy who's just like trying to see the sailboat in Mallrats are both supposed to be the same character. They're both Willem Black, and they're just played by different people on a whim. And like he's played by Ethan Suplee in Mallrats, but then he's played by Scott Mosier again in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and now they're both here at the same time. Just like, there's just two Willem Blacks that exist in the universe.
And fucking Danny Trejo being there, I was fucking and then he made him say, and then I come at him with a machete, and it's one of those things that like sometimes Kevin Smith is such a fucking nerd about this shit, and it's like really shows, and I love that, like because it's like it's something we would all do, like
it's just like tickle in the nose. It's on there, but it's just like And it just feels like it comes from a genuine place, so it's hard not to like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's like he's having a good time with his friends, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't really kind of fault that, like you're just like, and that's kind of the whole movie making business if you're doing it right, like it doesn't have to be so fucking serious all the time. So it's like it's nice to see that, like you're just
Yeah.
like people having good time making the movie. Okay, overall, I think Clerks 3, absolutely worth it. If you're hesitant because you're like, Clerks 3, like what? Absolutely go into this. It is
Mm-hmm.
very funny, but also brought tears to both of our eyes multiple times. And I think is emotionally effective, is well crafted, very funny, and stacked with stars.
Yeah. And it comes from a place of like almost personal bias. I had told you this when we had came out. Like,
mm,
even if this was along the lines of, say, like a Silent Bob sequel, not so much in terms of tone and like zaniness, but
yeah.
if this was just meant to have fun and just an excuse to see Dante and Randall again, I still would have ended up liking it just because I
Yeah.
love those two so much and they mean a lot to me. But the fact that it's just like, oh, now he has something to say. And I kind of saw it coming after Kevin Smith had recovered from like the whole heart attack and everything, when he had said like, "Oh, Clerks 3 is back on." I'm like, "Oh, I wonder what's going to be a subplot."
Yeah, you're like, I wonder what the plot will be. But I think you're right there. Is that like it feels like he had something to say and he's saying it in an effective way. And I think that there's a lot of movies that can't get any emotion across, and somehow he's able to elicit laughter and tears in the same half an hour.
And bring all these talented people around him just through sheer charisma. I love that Justin Long is starting to become so much of a Kevin Smith regular now, because I've always loved Justin Long.
Me too. He's one of my favorite shows.
Zack and Miri was the first one, which is retroactively in the View Askewniverse because the same characters in Reboot.
Exactly.
And like Tusk, and now this.
He's one of my favorite recurring characters in New Girl too. He's fucking hilarious in the New Girl show. But I think Justin Long's great, so I'm always just like, yes, more Justin Long, and he's so funny here too. Like you're just like, Jesus Christ, and them talking about like I have a small dick, doc. Like, and I've been lying to him about it for years. Like,
I think it's one of those things where like he's always been one of these really great performers that we kind of just like put in a box for a while when his career first started, because he started doing stuff like Galaxy Quest and Dodgeball, so we just kind of made him like the nebbish skinny nerd guy when he has more range than that.
Yeah, a lot more range than that. I think Kevin Smith gets to flex that for him in a lot of ways. So I'm really glad for that. Overall, this is I say go see it, guys. Buy it digitally, watch it streaming. Like do whatever you got to do. That's what we usually rate it at the end of. You can get it, own it, stream it, or wait for a sale and then don't watch it at all. That's the lowest rating we can give. I would absolutely say own this one. If you're already a Clerks fan, own this one. If you're a light Clerks fan, stream this one. But if you're a Kevin Smith guy, this is worth seeing as a Kevin Smith fan.
I'm literally just waiting for my next check. Come Monday, I'm gonna grab the Blu-ray for it.
Exactly. It's worth owning. It's worth having in the collection. I would say that's kind of our review
heartfelt.
Of that.
It's genuine. It's definitely his best movie in a while, even though we've liked most of his stuff.
I love Red State. I fucking love Tusk.
Red State's great. Tusk is ridiculous. Yoga Hosers I don't like, but I'm not mad about it. It's just fucking odd.
It's just odd.
But I remember the general consensus for this being super high. I remember even sending you a headline that was just like, dude, I heard someone say like, oh, I think it might have been Slash Film or somewhere else. That was just like Clerks 3 is Kevin Smith's best film since Dogma. I'm like, okay, all right. That's some praise.
Yeah, that is a lot of praise, because I do love Red State. I think Red State is fantastic. So it's like that's fucking something to say, like. But I do think Dogma is his best movie, no question. It's like one of those things that's hard when you're ranking. It's hard to rank Kevin Smith movies because I think Clerks is the obvious landmark fucking movie, but I fucking love Dogma. Like I fucking like if there's a movie. Guy. Yeah, you're a Chasing Amy guy. I do love Chasing Amy. Yeah, Chasing Amy is in the top 5, like no question. But it's. I think for me,
Dogma
it's
also
like
Dogma also hits you
Clerks,
in your
Dogma.
upbringing.
Yes, exactly. That's the reason why I'm like this is the most ridiculous fucking like shit on Catholicism, and I love it. Like I'm just like this is fantastic, and it's full of great people. I mean, Alan, is amazing in it, and you know Chris Rock is good too. So it's funny that Tusk has such a low rating. I'm always just like, no, it's cool, it's weird,
it's ridiculous. And
so does Red State. Red State's got a 6.1 on IMDb, and I'm like, shut your fucking mouth.
The fact that like people walk away from Tusk being like, that freaked me out. It was weird. I'm like, it's a horror movie. That's what it's supposed to do.
Exactly. You're like, what did you
think you were?
What did you think was gonna happen? Literally on the cover, it kind of said they turn him into a fucking walrus. What did you expect from this? I do. Yeah. It's hard for me because like. I love those weird movies for Kevin Smith, so it's like one of those things that I'm always a fan of him. So go back to our episode to hear more about it. We'll have to fucking rate him at some point or something like that.
If you have either Clerks 1 or 2 on home media, I would recommend the making of documentary for both. They're really well done. I've actually watched Back to the Well, the Clerks 2 making of doc multiple times. It's really good. It's just a good one to like go back into. But there was also a recent documentary that Malcolm Ingram, one of Kevin Smith's best friends, just directed a few months ago that's just called Clerk, which is just about a documentary about Kevin Smith's whole career. It's great.
Oh wow, I saw that. I didn't know if you watched it. That's awesome. So guys, I think that's our review of Clerks 3. Definitely go see it. You won't be able to go to the convenience store tour anymore, but
we were already the semifinal showing for it, and they were going to the next city the next day. I think it was Hartford,
but
for like the final one.
But like really, it's if there is another chance where he's taking another movie around, I would recommend doing it. It's great.
I think it'll probably be the new norm because the first time he had ever done it a little bit was with Red State, and he liked it then. He didn't try it again until Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and that worked out very well for him. And I think he just prefers it. He's like, look, these aren't the big movies that they used to be. Like, I know I'm not going to make a huge bank if I try to like pay to have these screens for it. Just do a limited run for Fathom events. Everyone who wants to see it will go out and see it. And then the people who are super dedicated can come and see me present it. And it'll go to exactly where it needs to go to.
Exactly. And I think that that's really an interesting business model, and it will keep these kind of like live events like this alive, and I really enjoy that.
It's definitely more authentic and more fulfilling than just like, put it on Netflix.
Yeah, and it's a lot more fulfilling than just going and seeing the movie as a moviegoer. It's like such an experience to have him introduce it and then talk for 3 fucking hours.
Plus, it's nice to be at a comedy venue where you can like have a drink.
Exactly. You can like hang out, and
we're all keeping it cash.
Keeping it cash. I thought it was nice. I mean, I've worked at the Wilbur. I've never been in the actual I've never been in the audience. I've always been backstage. So for me, I was like, I know what happens back there. I don't know what this is. Like, I'm just like, it's it's beautiful. I love the Wilbur. I was like, damn, I love this place. It's one of those like really nice like Boston landmarks. But guys, thank you for listening to this episode. Sorry for the large breaks. It was because I was moving, and it's been
he's finally
crazy.
Moved, but he's still working on it, and then like the holidays on top of that. And then like family stuff. It's just been one thing after the other.
Yeah, so we're so sorry about the kind of like the space we had to take here. But I want to thank you guys for being patient with us, and know that we're back. We are going to be going as full swing as possible. I have finished painting every room. I am done redoing every room. It's just fucking fixing normal things for an old house. So so it's not actually like redoing a room now. We can actually like go into every room and like finish them with like art and shit like that. So it's like actually the house is done, in that sense. So now we can be full back to episodes. And guys, I make sure you do subscribe for more episodes wherever you are. We're on YouTube, so you can see our beautiful faces and my new setup for the background here, or Deshaun's epic Funko collection and comic collection.
And the collection of the whole filmography, and the animated series, and you have the man himself.
There he is. I do have all my Gunpla behind me, so that's all there for if you're gonna watch us on YouTube. But if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can just listen while you drive or do anything else on any other podcast platform. I mean it. We're literally on everything else. Whatever you're on, hit listen. And if you're not, if you're on a platform and we're not on it, hit me up. I'll get us on that. I'll get us on that platform. Don't fucking worry. But guys, thank you for supporting the show. We have, it's been really great with this move over to the Galaxy Geek channel. I think there's been a lot of great, view uppage in like kind of, narrowing our focus to this is where the podcast lives and this is where we live, like this is at the Galaxy Geek YouTube. So I think that's really worked out, and I think that it's going to be great to continue on. And in the spirit of continuing on, I am going to be live on the channel several times for my new like live stream called Yep, It's Gundam with Yep Gundam. Yep Gundam's my Instagram handle where I do all Gundam stuff, and I'm gonna be live on there. I've already done one stream well, by the time this comes out, 2 streams, and then we're gonna keep kind of doing that on a weekly basis, is kind of just like Gunpla content that's just me live streaming it, like nothing too crazy, nothing as produced as the Warp Shelf produced the Warp Shelf, but it's just gonna be kind of like casual but with topics, live streaming. So more things coming to this channel, and we're gonna keep building that out, guys. There's gonna be more coming to this channel. Don't worry, it's not gonna go too flooded with other things that you might not be looking for, but it is the Galaxy of Geek, and that means we cover anything fucking geeky. So it doesn't
anything we want.
Anything we fucking want, but mostly geeky shit. So get ready for a big jump in stuff happening on this channel. So hit that subscribe button, and make sure to follow us on our social medias. I'm Yep Frank everywhere.
Mod Karaika.
And guys, I really want to thank you for the support of the show, and thank you for listening. If you're still here and you've listened to us ramble through our fucking social handles, I really appreciate you. And I hope you have a great rest of your week.
We'll see you next time.
Adios.